We live in a world that thrives on approval. Hearts race for likes. Souls bend for compliments. Minds twist themselves to fit in, to be accepted, to be validated. But here's the truth most never realize. Approval is a drug. And the more you chase it, the more enslaved you become. You begin to measure your worth by reactions that don't belong to you. You smile when you don't want to. You agree when you don't believe. You walk a path you never chose. All for applause that fades as fast as it arrives. The Stoics taught us something simple, yet eternally powerful. You do not need the world's permission to live your truth. Imagine that. Imagine walking through life unshaken by praise, untouched by insult. Free. Because the moment you quit chasing approval, everything changes. You no longer ask, "Do they like me?" You ask, "Do I respect myself in this moment?" You stop wondering how your actions look and start asking how they feel, deep within your chest, where only you can hear the answer. Approval is cheap. Integrity is rare. And the Stoics knew that a man who has himself needs no audience. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about that. You trust your body to keep you alive, your legs to carry you, your heart to beat. But you don't trust your own judgment to decide how to live. You hand that power to strangers, hoping they'll give it back in the form of praise. They won't. They can't. Because what you're seeking in others, you can only give to yourself: acceptance, clarity, direction. The moment you stop adjusting who you are to be accepted is the moment you begin to accept yourself fully. You start wearing what feels right, not what's trendy. You speak when it matters, not when it's convenient. You hold silence like a sword, not because you're weak, but because you've mastered the strength of restraint. Approval-seeking is a form of self-abandonment. And every time you do it, you lose a piece of yourself. But Stoicism calls you back to self-possession, to groundedness, to emotional sovereignty. It teaches you that the only judge that matters is the one inside your chest. Not the one in the crowd. Not the one in the comment section. Not even the one sitting across from you. When you live by your values, quietly, consistently, you become dangerous to a world that profits from your insecurity. You start doing things because they're right, not because they're applauded. And in that, you become ungovernable. Because approval is control in disguise. When you need it, they own you. They can mold you, tame you, shrink you. But when you let it go, you grow into something rare. A man who walks alone, not because he has to, but because he chooses to. A woman who speaks her truth, not because it will be liked, but because it's hers to say. We've been taught to fear disapproval, to fear being misunderstood, disliked, or dismissed. But the Stoics saw through that illusion. They taught that nothing is more important than your inner fortress, your unshakable clarity of who you are and what you stand for. Seneca said, "What is more shameful than to be guided by the opinions of the ignorant? What is more tragic than shaping your soul to fit a mold that wasn't even designed for you?" Look around. People act not because it aligns with their truth, but because they want to be perceived in a certain way. They smile to avoid conflict. They say yes to avoid judgment. They live inauthentically to be accepted by those who barely know them. And at the end of the day, they wonder why they feel empty. But you have the chance to break that pattern, to step out of the prison of perception, to stand tall in a world that kneels for likes, to walk forward with your head high, not because they praise you, but because you didn't betray yourself. The Stoic doesn't need applause. He doesn't chase it. He doesn't fear silence. He fears only one thing: self-betrayal. And so should you. Because every time you say yes when you mean no, a crack forms in your spirit. Every time you change your words to please, you water down your essence. And every time you seek approval, You lose the chance to approve of yourself. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to explain yourself. You simply need to live in such a way that your soul is at peace, even if the world is confused by your silence. Freedom doesn't come from being loved by all. It comes from being real with yourself. So the next time you're tempted to bend for someone's approval, pause. Ask yourself, what am I really trading? Your peace? Your principles? Your power? Because it's not worth it. Nothing external can fill the void that self-respect fills effortlessly. And that respect is built, not by applause, but by discipline. By choosing what's right when no one is watching. By saying what's true when your voice shakes. By walking away when staying means abandoning your soul. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to be liked. You don't need to be praised. You need to be true. That is the Stoic path. That is real power. That is the kind of strength no one can take from you. When you wake up tomorrow, walk as if no one's watching. Speak as if no one needs to agree. Act as if approval is irrelevant. Because it is. And the day you finally quit chasing it, you'll feel something you've never felt before. Not applause. Not recognition. But peace. A stillness so deep, it anchors you. A clarity so sharp, it silences the noise. That's what freedom feels like. And it begins the moment you stop chasing what was never yours to begin with. You see, the pursuit of approval is a moving target. One day they like you, the next day they don't. One moment you're praised, the next you're criticized. So ask yourself, do you want your worth to rise and fall with the unstable opinions of others? Do you really want your peace held hostage by the mood of the crowd? Because what they give you today, they can take away tomorrow. But what you give yourself, your dignity, your self-trust, your grounded presence, no one can steal. The Stoic understands this. He lives not to please, but to align. Not to be admired, but to be whole. And in this wholeness, he becomes something most people don't even recognize: authentic. Not curated. Not calculated. Just honest. And in a world obsessed with performance, that honesty is revolutionary. You might lose people. You might lose status. You might lose superficial admiration. But what you gain is real. You gain time. You gain clarity. You gain the deep, unshakable power of a life lived in alignment with your soul. You begin to walk slower, but with more purpose. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You stop trying to impress and start trying to impact. This is not arrogance. It's not rebellion. It's sovereignty. It's remembering that you were not born to shrink yourself for acceptance. You were born to live fully, not filtered. When you quit chasing approval, you also stop fearing disapproval. You become quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you don't need the world's permission to speak your truth. And when you do speak, people listen. Because you're not seeking validation, you're speaking from conviction. That kind of presence cannot be faked. It is forged through inner work, through sitting with yourself. Through watching your thoughts and choosing not to believe every insecure impulse. Through asking yourself daily, does this action honor who I am, or am I trying to win someone? The Stoic path is not about becoming emotionless. It's about choosing which emotions deserve a seat at your table. And needing approval? That emotion doesn't get a seat. Not anymore. You don't need their claps. You don't need their nods. You don't need to be invited. You are the invitation. And once you realize this, something remarkable happens. You become magnetic. Not because you're trying to be, but because people are drawn to authenticity like a flame. They feel your clarity. They notice your calm. They admire your restraint, even if they never say it aloud. But here's the paradox. The less you need approval, the more respect you command. Because people sense when you are unshakable. They sense when you do not move according to their preferences. And in that resistance, they often find their own reflection. You stop being a mirror of their expectations and start being a reminder of their own potential. Because deep down, everyone wants what you have, self-ownership. But few are willing to walk through the fire to claim it. You will lose people when you stop seeking approval. That's the truth. But the ones who remain? They're the ones who see you, not just your image. They're not clapping because you pandered to them. They're walking beside you because you showed them what it means to stand tall. Approval chasing is a subtle form of begging. And the Stoic does not beg. He gives. He serves. He moves. But never from emptiness. Always from overflow. From a wellspring inside him that is not fed by others' opinions, but by his own integrity. When you look in the mirror at the end of the day, the question is not, did they approve of me? The question is, did I live in a way that my future self will thank me for? That's the standard. Not popularity. Not applause. But peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing that you didn't betray your values to be liked. That you didn't silence your voice to keep the room comfortable. That you didn't change your shape just to fit someone's limited frame. You stayed true. You stayed centered. And that is more rare than fame, more powerful than recognition. That is the foundation of the Stoic life. Not external control, but internal command. When they misunderstand you, you stay calm. When they mock you, you stay grounded. When they praise you, you don't become inflated. Because all of it is noise, and your compass doesn't move with the wind. It is rooted in something deeper, virtue, clarity, and presence. You become like a tree with deep roots. The storms come. People throw shade. Some walk past. Others rest in your shadow. But none of that changes the fact that you are whole, regardless of who notices. That's the life we're building here. One choice at a time. One moment of silence over people-pleasing. One act of self-respect over self-sacrifice. One decision to walk your own path, even if no one claps for you. Especially then. Because the day you quit chasing approval is the day you finally find yourself. And that is the beginning of true freedom.